Welcome back. You're still watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition with myself, Naledi Moleo. So Deputy Defence Minister Bantu Holomisa says the withdrawal of South African National Defence Force troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo is in line with a renewed push for peace and stability in the region. Holomisa was speaking during a briefing to the Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans earlier today. He joins us live to unpack this story further. Deputy Minister, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Lots of information, of course, to catch our viewers up on. But I think the biggest curiosity, Deputy Minister, would be explain to us the state at the moment, the status update on where our troops are, how close they are to coming home.
As you have heard earlier on, when the minister and the commander of the SANDF were briefing the nation, they told us that the withdrawal of our troop first phase has started, and the troops which were taken out of Goma area in the first phase are now in Tanzania. So what is going to happen now is for the Department of Defense, in line with the PFMA, to make sure that they hire aircrafts to bring back those troops, and also to make sure that the equipment of the SANDF is shipped through Tanzania back to South Africa. Also, in that area, we will have to make sure that we comply with our own financial regulations. We don't want to do a thing hastily now and end up later on, the Auditor General saying, how did you bring these troops back? We must make sure that paperwork is in place and that our troops are safe, and then they will join the families. But before that, of course, they will have to be introduced to or integrated into our defense force, but at least a week or two before they do that, the Department of our Health within the Defense Force will have to, through psychological expertise, engage them. But that's the second phase will be communicated once more by the minister as to when is this starting, when is it finishing. But bottom line is that we should be thankful to the call which was made by President Cyril Ramaphosa to President Kagame right at the beginning, when he said, notwithstanding what is being said in the media, we as leaders, we must see to it that there is a ceasefire. Please use your influence, Mr. Kagame, to make sure that there is ceasefire in that area so that we can save lives. And I think that ceasefire call has been holding since then. A process which led to the meeting between SADC leaders as well as the Eastern African community leaders. And all of them, there was unanimous agreement or a consent and sufficient consensus which said, let us find a solution for African solution. In doing so, let us silence the guns as a first phase. Since then, the SANDF and M23 forces, all of them, they have been chatting to each other, and also they have facilitated the M23 for the withdrawal of our troops in line with the decision by these leaders of Africa.
You do, Deputy Minister, and you talk about African solutions for African problems. You do also have the Defence Committee welcoming the the extension of maritime security missions to protect regional stability and trade in the area. Talk to me about like the importance of that and certainly what it would look like, the resources, if there are any concerns there.
Well, you are aware that the SANDF have been struggling to refurbish or maintain our fleet in Navy. But our technology and also our political acumen has led us to make sure that we communicate with our neighbors, because we are responsible for the Indian Ocean, part of Indian Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. And it's becoming heavy now, given that in the Gulf area, there are tensions in that area. A number of ships are no longer going through that area, are going through the Cape route. So we have to up the game. And in doing so, we must work with our neighbors, Madagascar, Tanzania, right through up to Cape Town, and then Angola, Namibia. So some of these countries are part of SADC. So if we cannot have, for instance, a ship to patrol all this area because of financial constraint, we are able to communicate with our counterparts to say, man, we have a system which can show right up to Namibia, Angola, and beyond, that this coastline, we see a ship from that distance, monitor that. So this is the technology we have, it's in place. But in terms of us patrolling the whole area, it would be a mission impossible. So it's important, therefore, that we make use of the bilateral agreements and cooperations we have with the SADC countries.
That cooperation incredibly important. You've got, of course, the committee welcoming the continuation of that support from South Africa for work done for the region. If we go back to the work of bringing our troops back, I'm just curious around the importance of being able to ensure that their equipment also makes its way back home safely, just the level of security that's necessary there. And I suppose you talk about the administrative efforts, but, you know, some of the work that gets into protecting what we have sent out as equipment, ensuring that we do not lose.
That's a critical area, because the chief of logistics, when he is approached by the Auditor General, he has to make sure that the equipment we sent there is brought back, whether if it is no longer in use or obsolete. There are programs and policies. How do you dispose of such equipment? But we can't leave even a rifle in that part of the world and just rush to come back home. Because if we leave equipment behind, especially that we were not there in a war situation, but we were there, say 60% to hold peace. So that equipment must come back. It includes the equipment which is right now under the control of the United Nations. Because that equipment which is under the United Nations is still going to be under the UN, because we are not withdrawing the members of the SANDF who are under the control or management of the UN. The equipment and the personnel who are withdrawing are the people who were deployed as a result of the request by the SADC countries. The leadership of SADC and that of the Eastern African Community leaders, region, they have said, let us withdraw. So we are obeying that order. But the key here is that the reports from SADC Secretariat must also reach Parliament and the government of South Africa, so that we can tell the people of South Africa to say, of the countries of SADC, these are the people who contributed with personnel, financially, or that the whole burden was carried by South African government. So, but let us give them the benefit of the doubt that they will submit that report.
Yeah, I want to look at this. You've got the Democratic Alliance that has been obviously incredibly outspoken. One of the things they've done is reject that what we've seen is a success in the DRC mission, calling it a whitewash. And I'd like for you to respond to that, Deputy Minister. But also, this coming up, assist us with this. The DA goes on to say, while the South African development community allocated 108,000 rand per soldier per month over the period of deployment, South African troops received only 32,000 rand per month, with no explanation of where the remaining 76,000 rand per soldier went. So those two issues, the payment of soldiers, and certainly if you believe that the labeling of this mission by SADC as a success is a whitewash, as used by the words of the DA.
If I may start with your last question,
sure.
I've promised the committee, I've promised the plenary session in Parliament today that we will investigate this discrepancy about the allowances. You must also remember that this was a SADC operation, not a UN sponsored operation. So there might be some discrepancies on that. But again, of the SADC countries who took the decision to deploy the troops from Tanzania, South Africa, and Malawi, how many of the SADC countries contributed financially to that? But those details will be furnished to the DA, and I'm sure the media will get a copy. On the part of the first part of your question, which was talking about whether it was a success or not, the success or not of the SAMI DRC deployment cannot be measured only on one incident. We need a comprehensive report from SADC, Secretariat, UN, DRC, government, and of course the SANDF. It's too early to pronounce that this project was a success or this deployment was a success or not. On the strength of getting those reports from those countries, they will, I'm definitely sure, they will say, after the MONUSCO, that is United Nations Peacekeeping Force, withdrew from the DRC eastern area in Goma area, the SADC moved in and they have saved so many lives. This is what has happened. And we are even looking forward to hear from UN and SADC Secretariat of during that conflict, how many people were affected, either killed or not. So those details, therefore, is premature for the DA to make a pronouncement. So, but that is their evaluation. But we, as in government, we must act responsibly. We can't mislead the public.
Yeah. Deputy Minister, we really do appreciate your time. And that there, the Defence Deputy Minister, Mr. Bantu Holomisa, giving us a status update on, of course, our troops making their way back from the DRC. This is, of course, after the Defence Committee in Parliament has come out in full support and welcoming the safe withdrawal of our troops, and also supporting the extended maritime security mission to protect regional stability stability and trade. All right, we leave it there.